everybody. As you know, I'm Alex, and this is Dan O'Connor, regular part of our church and lover of Scripture. And Dan, you've been a Christian for how long?
43 years.
Okay. 43 years. So that would have been like in the late 70s?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Because your family, they weren't necessarily Christian.
No,
right?
they were not.
Yeah, so you kind of were the black sheep.
Yeah.
Going this direction.
Yeah, I was the white sheep.
We'll see how rainy it gets.
Oh, it's just amazing.
We'll show you how tough we are, especially since part of your section has to do with perseverance. So we'll see if we can persevere through a little bit of weather. How did you feel when you got this section of Scripture, Romans 5 through 8?
Well, I think I told you I was excited about this section of Romans. Romans is my favorite epistle, and this section is my favorite section.
Oh, okay.
So it's like the favorite of the favorite.
Yeah.
Talks about and gives us the Christian conundrum.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's the CCPP, not just the CCP. Communist China. But
I was thinking of angel dust.
Yeah.
What's the acronym for angel dust?
So I have no idea. Oh, is that right?
I don't know.
Okay. Well,
you would know, but not me.
No, I don't know anything about drugs.
Okay.
But anyway,
not
the CC is Christian conundrum,
Right.
but PP is that it is our position as man, our position as a redeemed man, and that's mankind, not just man.
You're not cutting the women out, right?
I don't take the women out. But the other P is practical. The practical way of living with the Lord that moves you forward in your growth as a new being.
And that makes me think of how honest or practical Paul is in Romans 7 when he talks about how impossible it is to live the life, and then he goes into Romans 8 where it's like it's a practical way. Here's actually how it's done.
What comes to mind is I've been crucified with Christ.
Oh, okay.
Nevertheless, I live. Yet not I, but Christ lives within me, and the life that I now live, I live by faith in the Son of the living God. In my mind, that's what I remember, because it's a song, an old gospel song that when I was first saved, it was a contemporary song. But anyway, now it's old.
Now it's a hymn and a dusty old hymn book somewhere.
Yeah, right.
So why conundrum? What's the conundrum?
Well, the conundrum goes back to when C.S. Lewis wrote The Problem with Pain and the problem of pain. And what it is that we as human beings live in a broken world, and the broken world is that we are spiritually dead. After some time, I think after childhood, our spirit is it's decimated, it's death because of sin. So then what is Jesus about? And who is he? And that's the other practical aspect of this point of Scripture, is that it tells us who Jesus is and what he's done and who he is today, not just 2,000 years ago.
So is the conundrum that we're dead and yet living at the same time?
That's right.
Okay.
That we as believers, we have new life, and you must be born again. So, and when we are born again, we are given a new spirit that is in communion with God.
Okay.
And
so you're talking about our life status as Christians, as being part of us is dead and part of us is fully alive.
Well,
and yet here we are living both lives simultaneously.
Yeah.
That sounds like a conundrum to me. So.
Yeah, and that we suffer, and that what it's very clear in Romans that he talks about that the principal purpose of our lives is that we are being made into his image, into the image of Jesus.
Yeah.
And that process is not straightforward. That process
It's a bit of a mystery, isn't it?
It's a mystery, and I have to say, for an old sinner like me, and with a lot of flesh, it's a painful process.
Yeah.
And that we lose oftentimes our faith in him, or at least we go through dark times when we suffer a lot, some of us more than others, and that in the midst of that, the death that brings allows somehow, and it's mystery, new life. He brings new life. I've actually picked out the key passages in every chapter.
Okay.
And I say passages. It's a verse. Maybe it's
Okay.
2 verses in each chapter that
Excellent.
really capture.
My sense is that God likes our idea because the sun is shining on us right now. There's probably a rainbow right here somewhere. but-
So Abraham was the living being who was the root.
Yeah.
And it's great because it's by faith we are saved through faith, or so by grace we are saved through faith.
Yeah.
It's not faith in faith.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have faith in faith, and faith gets us through somehow.
Right.
But when we have faith in that faith, it's not that at all, because
There's an object to
There's
it.
an object,
Yeah.
and through the death, or through the sinning of Adam, the first man, that brought this real mess that humankind has. That's the cause, because we all came out of Adam, and so we're born with a curse on us, and that whereas his one man sinned and wrecked the whole deal in terms of God's perfect intentions and perfect, us as human beings being perfectly in communion with him and love, that then by Jesus, the one man, he gathers up a remnant of humankind, and he brings new life. He makes you new.
One man brings death, scatters. The
Yep.
other man brings life.
Gather.
Yes.
And even your own brokenness within, and those of us who have gone through deep depression know, we see it all. We can see the brokenness of all creation,
Yep.
and that is what,
And we see
That-
we see it in ourselves.
and we know it in ourselves.
Yeah. Because of what's
We're broken.
Because of Adam's mistakes and our own mistakes.
And the root of man is just that. We're in his image. That's good, but we're broken. We were born broken.
Yeah.
We were born separated from God.
Yeah.
And that's the conundrum. And it's about the inner war that we have with ourselves, because we have flesh. We have an element of within our being that is full of death and destruction, and at the same time we have a new life that was birthed to that's really who we are. This is now who we are.
Okay.
The major effort that we make is at that interface between you and God that only you know about, that only you can experience, and everyone experiences it differently. That at that point, we are brought to our knees in submission to Him, and we work out our salvation there. But it's at that interface, that place between you and God alone, that your mind needs to focus. It needs to be focused on that new life. That the one that created all that's around us, all this beauty, all this tragedy, all that is here, go outside the earth and think about the actual universe, that in the midst of that, he calls us to be his own, and he creates in us something we did not have. Our thinking and how we think and what we focus on indeed affects, we already know, our moods and such, but it affects our physiology. And we get new neural pathways, new life, that were not there before. So when we decide that I'm going to quit focusing on being frustrated or angry, but I'm going to get to the root of why I may be frustrated and angry. Now, those are the two biggies for me. I find that it's that I don't trust him, that in fact, the Bible over and over again, which you do every week, you talk about the new life that's in you, and that you must focus on that new life, and it changes you, and it changes you what? Into his image.
Okay.
You have not chosen me, but I've chosen you. I've ordained that you should go and bear much fruit, and that your fruit should remain. Start focusing on that. If you've given your life to Jesus, and he wants you focusing on that he has called you, he has equipped you, and that you have all that it takes to make the next step in your life to glorify him.
Okay.
I've lived out consequences of my actions, knowing fully well that I deserved what I got. Finally, I came to that, but being in a lot of pain before I could finally reconcile that, wow, you still love me. You still love me, and you still are with me to move in my life to glorify you, to be a glory unto you.
So pain has been one of our big teachers, basically. If we can receive from it.
Yeah. And really degrees of pain and anguish that I think that for what it takes to come out. But I do know that in some very specific areas and issues that are in my life, and I took them to him, and I just, I said to the mountain, be hence removed and cast into the sea, and that mountain, it dissolved in the most unusual way, and it really is just the rest. You just waiting and resting, and I don't do very good at it. I'm not very good at it. But how much more is he able to be an originator of the new life that resides in you through you now cooperating with him and giving your life to him? When we look at real life, like that tree out there, and we see that life, whether it's a plant and whether it's an animal and whether it's a human being an animal, that each one is unique. Each tree has its own character. I mean, how is it possible that this whole planet is full of these trees and you can't find two the same?
And ironically, humans look different from each other than trees do.
So that's the nature of life. And if Jesus is the author of life, do you think that the Christian being is going to become a drone? Not at all.
All right, so how do we figure out which part of ourself is like, of our individualness is like, has to die on the cross and is just like, has to go, versus the parts of our uniqueness that are like radiant and vibrant and they're going to live forever? How do we know which is which?
Well, the answer to that is that it's not going to be very satisfying for you, but it is that what Paul lays out in Romans is flesh and spirit. What Jesus laid out when he says you must be born again, it was the flesh, it counts for nothing. The spirit, it counts for everything. So if you have been given a new spirit, you know from the deepest part of your being what life is. And that character of life is from the author of life. And I don't make too much of a distinction, and I think you don't either, between, say, living a life where you're a pastor, versus living a life where you're a painter or an engineer like I am, or a musician like your wife is, and that each one of those callings come to you, and you know when you're manipulating
Okay.
that gift to get something you want. I mean, it's so obvious, and some people can see through that real easily. I know inside me when I'm pulling
All
a
right.
con.
So the beautiful part, or the unique expression of you, is there in all of who you are. It's just that you can see the dark versus the light in your intent, or how you're using it.
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's
And
good.
let's see what so
I
it's
wonder
not
if when
clear
we're-
to me.
I wonder if when we're in heaven, if you'll still very much be you, and I'll still very much be me.
I quite imagine so. Yeah.
Isn't that a crazy thought?
It is a wonderful thought, and you know, there's a lot of reason to believe that. In fact, because we will be given a new body, and if our experience tells us, the tree and us and everything, that it's unique, and that we'll even have a name that only we'll know between him and us. But I know immediately when I'm focused on a task that is selfish, self-centered, and I'm trying to get something out of something,
Right.
you know, and even to the point of where we are doing evil things. We know we're doing evil
Right.
things, and why? Well, we've been given a conscience. I guess you can kill it finally, apparently, but then even those that you think killed it then go to prison and have life sentences and come out knowing the Lord and
Coming alive again.
and they're alive, right? So so as a Christian, there should be no question. You know, I know every time I cheat. I know every time I lie and steal. I know every time, and I've got this living being inside me that's going,
Yeah.
dink, dink, dink.
Or rejoicing when we choose the right path, because there's satisfaction in that.
There is satisfaction, and when we're living clear with Him, it's very satisfying.
All right, chapter 4 is this the way in faith. Chapter 5 is the problem, the unraveling of Adam, and the new way through the second Adam. Chapter 6 gets into some of the details of our old life versus our new life. Chapter 7 laments the crap pile that is our old life, and chapter 8 explodes with hope for what's
For the life that is.
okay.
Yeah.
So set us up.
That's really good.
Well, I've been listening to you. If someone's out there struggling, how can they get? What's something they need to hear from these 4 chapters? It's kind of a closer.
Hang on. Hang on, because you will get it, and you don't give up, and never give in. You're pursuing the living God, because He is pursuing you.
Cool. All right.